Hold a mangosteen in your hand. The outside is unimpressive, a tennis ball-sized sphere of thick, dark purple rind, almost leathery, almost ugly. Now press your thumbs into the equator and twist. The shell snaps open with a hollow crack and reveals one of the most pristine sights in all of botany, a small cluster of pure white segments, arranged in a perfect flower, glistening with juice. There is almost no other fruit on Earth where the contrast between exterior and interior is this extreme. The mangosteen has been called the queen of fruits for over 1,000 years across Southeast Asia, and modern science has only recently caught up with what indigenous medicine knew already. Inside that snow-white flesh is one of the most remarkable bioactive chemistries of any fruit. Over 40 distinct compounds in a family called xanthones, found in significant quantities almost nowhere else in the human food supply. In the next 7 minutes, we are going to take it apart and find vitamin C, manganese, soluble fiber, and a class of polyphenols so unusual they have become a research field of their own. Botanically, the mangosteen is a berry. The thick purple-brown outer layer, called the pericarp, can be up to a centimeter thick and accounts for roughly 2/3 of the total mass of the fruit. This pericarp is bitter, astringent, and not normally eaten, but it is the densest source of the fruit's signature bioactive compounds. Beneath the pericarp lies the edible aril, typically 4 to 8 pure white segments arranged like the petals of a tiny flower. Each segment is soft, juicy, slightly tart, and intensely sweet. The largest segment usually contains a single thin seed. The smaller ones are seedless. The shell is the chemistry. The flesh is the flavor. Mangosteen is the world's primary natural source of a class of polyphenols called xanthones. Over 40 different xanthones have been isolated from the fruit, with alpha-mangostin and gamma-mangostin as the most abundant and most studied. Xanthones are structurally distinct from the flavonoids and anthocyanins that dominate most other fruits. They have a tricyclic core that allows them to exert broad and unusual biological activity. Alpha-mangostin has been shown in laboratory studies to have antibacterial activity against drug-resistant staphylococcus, anti-inflammatory effects through suppression of NF-kappa B, and anti-tumor activity against several cancer cell lines. Gamma-mangostin has been studied for its neuroprotective effects and its ability to inhibit the COX-2 enzyme. These are not folk claims, they are peer-reviewed pharmacology. The mangosteen rind in particular is so dense in xanthones that traditional Southeast Asian medicine has used it for inflammation, diarrhea, and skin infections for centuries.
Beyond the xanthones, the edible white flesh of the mangosteen delivers a respectable conventional nutrition profile. 100 grams of fresh aril provides about 10 to 13% of your daily vitamin C, supporting collagen synthesis and immune function. It also contains meaningful amounts of folate, important for cell division and red blood cell formation, and a modest dose of thiamine, riboflavin, and niacin. Manganese is the standout mineral, providing roughly 10% of your daily requirement per 100 grams. Manganese is the critical cofactor for superoxide dismutase, one of your body's primary internal antioxidant enzymes. The mangosteen, in other words, supplies both external antioxidants in the form of xanthones and the mineral your own internal antioxidant systems need to function. 2 layers of defense in one small white segment. 100 grams of mangosteen flesh contains about 1.5 grams of fiber and 17 grams of natural sugars. The fiber is mostly soluble, pectins and gums, and although the fruit tastes intensely sweet, its glycemic index is moderate. Studies in humans have shown that mangosteen consumption can improve insulin sensitivity in people with metabolic syndrome, an effect that has been attributed in part to the xanthones themselves modulating glucose metabolism at the cellular level. There is also evidence that xanthones inhibit alpha-amylase, the enzyme that breaks down starch in the digestive tract, which slows the post-meal glucose spike. The fruit tastes like candy and behaves at the metabolic level more like a functional food. The sweetness is real. The sugar impact is buffered by chemistry your body is not used to seeing from fruit.
Here's the unusual twist of the mangosteen. The part most people throw away, the thick purple shell, is the part with the highest bioactive concentration. Xanthone content in the pericarp can be 10 to 50 times higher than in the edible white flesh. Traditional Southeast Asian medicine uses the dried pericarp brewed as a tea for wound healing, infection, and inflammation. Modern dietary supplements based on mangosteen extract are made almost entirely from the pericarp, not the flesh. The flesh gives you flavor and a modest dose of xanthones. The shell, properly prepared, gives you the full pharmacology. This is one of the few common fruits where the inedible part is also the medicinally important part, and where eating the fresh whole fruit captures only a fraction of what the plant is actually offering. The mangosteen is native to the Sunda Islands of the Malay Archipelago in present-day Indonesia and Malaysia, where it has been cultivated for over 1,000 years. It grows on a slow, finicky tree that can take 10 years to bear its first fruit and requires consistent humidity, warmth, and rainfall. The tree is so demanding that for centuries it could not be successfully grown outside of a narrow tropical band. Today, commercial production has spread to Thailand, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and parts of South America. The fruit was famously coveted by Queen Victoria, who is said to have offered a knighthood to anyone who could deliver one to her in good condition. That was likely apocryphal, but it captured the fruit's reputation. Fresh mangosteen is fragile, perishable, and seasonal. It does not ripen further after picking. When you find a ripe one, eat it that day. So what do you actually get when you eat a mangosteen? You get over 40 distinct xanthones, a polyphenol family almost unknown elsewhere in the human food supply. You get alpha-mangostin and gamma-mangostin, 2 of the most studied bioactive compounds in the tropical fruit world. You get a modest but real dose of vitamin C, folate, and B vitamins. You get manganese to power your own antioxidant enzymes. You get soluble fiber and a sweetness that is metabolically buffered by chemistry. And you get one of the most dramatic exterior to interior contrasts in any fruit, a thick, leathery purple shell hiding a small white flower of segments inside. 1,000 years ago, somewhere in the Malay archipelago, people called it the queen of fruits without knowing any of the chemistry. They were right anyway. Crack it open, reveal it, and eat the snow-white cluster inside.